selfish and share the URL esottransplantlife.org with all your friends and colleagues and tell them why you decided to sign up. And then just keep your browser open. You start once, stay tuned because it's happening right now. Hello, good morning and welcome here live from the Bella Center in Copenhagen, where we're ready to kickstart the second day of the ESOT 2019 Congress. It's a day packed full with very interesting sessions, and the good news is we're gonna broadcast them all live to you via ESOT's educational platform transplantlife.org. So if you're not watching there right now, make sure you register and hop over. But before we start with our first state-of-the-art session, we're just going to have some fun here on Facebook and YouTube, kind of look out to the day and look forward to a very special occasion that's going to happen here tomorrow night at 6:30 Copenhagen time, where we will connect the global world. Well, let's first look at a little introduction of that special meeting that is going to happen here tomorrow. Imagine what could happen if we can match the most inspiring minds in transplantation with the incredible drive for change in Silicon Valley. On the third day of the ESOT 2019 Congress here in Copenhagen, we're going to make an attempt to truly connect the global transplantation community. At that moment, in the early morning, there will be a meeting at the Stanford University School of Medicine, together with a meeting here at ESOT Congress in Copenhagen. We will connect those two meetings virtually, and we will have speakers in Stanford talking to an audience in Copenhagen. And all of this will be broadcasted live right here on Transplant Live. So you should make sure that you're a part of that as well. The meeting is titled Using Research as an Agent for Change, and we will learn how you can use the latest insights and results and use them to make an even greater impact on society. So make sure you set a reminder, an alarm, and invite all your friends and colleagues to join us virtually right here at Transplant Live on Tuesday, September 17th, 6:30 Copenhagen time. And I'm very proud and honored to now have the honor to introduce you to two of the key players of that meeting who are here in Copenhagen with us. It's the person chairing the session here in Copenhagen. You've seen him before in this studio on the bike ride. It's Stefan Schneider, the current ESOT's president. And he's joined on the bike ride through Copenhagen by Dr. Edward Chong, who is the chief medical officer of Vitaris Bio, which is a biotech startup company from Vancouver in Canada, started in 2016, and they are doing something remarkable for the field of transplantation. Stefan, take it away.
Well, thanks, Gerrit. Thanks, Eddie, for joining us here today.
Good morning.
It's exciting to have you, and it's great to get the chance to chat with you before we go into the session tomorrow.
Yes,
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, Eddie, you're the CMO of Vitaris.
Yes.
Can we still say that's a startup company, or is that a company beyond the startup phase?
Yeah, we're a startup. I think you can still call us a startup, virtual company. We're a very small company. We only started in 2016. We've spent the first year, trying to think of an indication that we could develop our asset, our drug in, and then we started focusing on transplant in 2017. So, in that sense, we're a startup company.
So you're saying the drug was there first, and then you were looking for the indication?
Yeah, we acquired this drug from another biotech company, which we had a lot of data, phase 2 data from this with this drug in another indication, and we basically used the safety data from this, and some of the efficacy, the pharmacology data that already existed with this drug, and then basically reposition it in the field of transplant to treat chronic antibody-mediated rejection.
Well, and that's obviously an important unmet need in transplantation.
Yeah, yeah.
So for those of us in the field who do not understand how this works, I mean, you don't go to a market and look around and you find a drug and then you ask to buy it. That's not how it happens. So how does it really work? How are you made aware of a possible drug that can be bought, and how can drugs be bought? I mean, are you buying a patent, or are you buying the rights, or what are you buying actually?
We actually acquired the drug outright, the patent, intellectual property, the IP. So we actually own the drug completely. And in terms of finding an indication, a lot of us in the company, especially the investors, they came from a background, from a transplant background. And then we were made aware of some promising data from California, actually, from Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles initially. And that's how we sort of positioned this drug in the field of transplant. And then specifically to treat chronic antibody-mediated rejection after kidney transplantation, which, as you know, is one of the biggest unmet needs in the field of transplant.
Oh, that's right. So you identify a target and you figure, okay, this could be working well in transplantation, but you don't have any money then at that point.
Yes, yeah. We had a small group of investors, local investors in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and then we were lucky enough to persuade CSL Behring, who's a major global biotech company, and they are now our corporate partner in this adventure. So, and they're funding all our research and development activities. So we were very fortunate to get a corporate partner such as CSL Behring on board.
So from your perspective, would you say that this is an easy thing to do if you have an idea, a patented drug? You go from door to door. I mean, how much effort does it take, and how difficult is it to convince an investor, and what are they looking at then?
I think, it's always difficult to convince investors to come on board. Obviously, as you know, developing drugs take a lot of money, and there are large sums of money involved here. So they are obviously, investors are always very careful in how they part with their money. But in this case, we had a lot of good data to support this drug from the previous clinical trials. We had a very good story to convince corporate partners that this is a worthy adventure to come on board. The condition that we're treating has an unmet need. There's no proof of effective treatments, and it is obviously a very serious, potentially life-threatening condition. So we had a good, and we had a very good regulatory path as well, because we went to speak with the FDA, the CHMP, and they were all very receptive to our plans for bringing this drug onto the market for the benefit of patients.
Wonderful. So you're addressing one very important point in the struggle that we have, and that is working with the authorities to define the endpoints for such trials. Right. And especially for antibody-mediated rejection, this is often long-term, right, which financially is then a big burden to the companies engaging. How do you fix that?
Well, this is one of the key challenges that we have in this field, as you know. So we were able to come up with a study design that uses a surrogate endpoint in an interim analysis. And if this interim analysis of this surrogate endpoint is positive, the FDA has agreed that we could file for what we call accelerated approval, and so that we can get the drug onto the market at that time, whilst the whole study carries on to its final endpoint. So that's basically the regulatory strategy. So that is obviously attractive to corporate partners. They don't, so they do not have to wait till the whole study is completed, which may take 5 or more years to do. So hopefully with this interim analysis, it may be 2 or 3 years time that we can get onto the market if the results are positive.
Okay. Well, that's a great way to address this and to solve this. So that was done before you went to the investors, and that was sort of one of the important selling points.
Yeah, that was one of the important selling. So we were quite confident that we could, convince the FDA, because the FDA, I think, have indicated they were receptive to innovative ideas coming forward, because I think they were also well aware of the need for new transplant drugs. Because as you know, there has not been a new transplant drug for more than 10 years now. And the need is there. So I think they were, we had a very good indication speaking to other transplant experts that the FDA and the CHMP were going to be receptive to any new innovative ideas coming forward. So I think that was not a difficult story to sell to our corporate partners, and we were proven right when we went to speak to the FDA.
So it's a lengthy and complex process to acquire the rights, the patent, put together the trial, go to the FDA, find an investor. At any point in time, did you think this would all fail?
Well, yeah, I think in our if you want to get involved in this field and get involved in a biotech startup, you need to have some degree of confidence that you will be successful.
A lot, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it, some of it depends on good luck, but a lot of it depends on, having confidence in what you want to do and what you want, and achieving your goals. I think if you set your goals right, with good information and good arguments, I think you can get there. And that's basically what happened to us. So now, we now have to do the study, and hopefully the study will be positive.
Well, we all hope that, because we, as you said, we need further advancement in transplantation. We need companies like yours to accept the risks that you embrace, I guess, if you do something like this.
Yeah.
So what's the worst or a bad possible scenario?
I think, so long as we carry out the study properly, the results will be the results. We either prove the hypothesis that we are testing in the study works or not. If it doesn't work, but so long as we do a well-conducted study and the data is robust, and that shows that blocking this mechanism of action of this drug doesn't work, then then we move on. Then the whole transplant community can move on, and not and move on to new ideas and new hypotheses. I think that's a positive outcome as well. So in a negative study, you can learn a lot of things.
Well, that's an interesting aspect. So I wanted to ask you that. Let's assume the outcome is not as it was desired. People are talking a lot about the value of data these days.
Right.
So how much is it worth? I mean, not maybe talking numbers, but just to give us an idea, a sense of what such data of a trial that didn't fulfill and meet the primary endpoints, how much would it still be worth in comparison to what you invest?
I think from a commercial perspective, I don't think it would be worth a lot of money from a dollars perspective, but from a scientific perspective, it is worth a lot of money, because you can learn a lot of things from failed trials. There is a lot of data that you could mine to look for new targets, new endpoints, etc. So even like I say, even in a failed study, there is a lot of value in failed studies. But from a commercial perspective, from a financial perspective, obviously that's not the outcome that you're wishing for, because obviously our investors are not going to get a return on their money.
So let us assume that this trial is successful, that we all hope you meet your primary endpoints, and then comes market entry.
Right.
How big of a challenge do you see that to be in comparison to what you've done up until this point?
As you know, there is no effective treatment, no approved treatment. So entry into the market should be relatively easy. Speaking to the transplant community, there is they're crying out for new treatments. So it should be relatively easy to get into the market. Although I'm not a marketing expert, but I would have thought, based on my experience, that this should not be a problem.
Right. Well, I am a member of the market. I can assure you that we are hungry for new products, for innovation to come to our field.
Right, yeah.
Well, Eddie, thanks for joining me here today. That was very informative. I think we're both looking forward to our session tomorrow, late in the afternoon. I think it's 6:30.
Yep.
It's going to be hopefully an interesting interactive session. The idea of that session, again, is to bring together the people from the medical field with those who are on their way like you or have been successful already, to hear about how this works, what the challenges were, what the challenges are. Right. Maybe others will then pick up the idea and be brave enough to do what you did.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Stefan and Eddie. I hope you enjoyed that bike ride through Copenhagen together. If you're just joining us, you've been watching Stefan Schneider, ESOT's president and the moderator of the very special satellite event together with the Stanford School of Medicine tomorrow night. And he was chatting with Eddie Chong, who is the Chief Medical Officer of Vitaris Bio from Vancouver in Canada, a biotech startup. And that is just an example of what that session will be like. The session will be hosted in Stanford by Waldo Concepcion and Randall Morris. We will get an official welcome by the Dean of Stanford in our session live, and then we'll basically follow the route from initial idea, from core research, through patents and regulations, and hear more stories like Edward's of how these startups progress in the world and how they make a bigger impact on society with all these new medical opportunities and insights. So if you're just joining us, we invite you really to join that. It will be live broadcasted, not only on Transport Live, but actually also on ESOT's Facebook and YouTube page. So mark your calendar and be with us. As said, it's ESOT 2019 Congress here in Copenhagen, and there's a lot of stuff going on. One of the 5 key pillars of this Congress is creativity and creative formats. So we went out to investigate some of these formats, and one of them is back from Barcelona. It's called the Elevator Pitch Session. It's a highly intense session where a lot of abstracts get a chance to present their latest insights. And yesterday, we walked in on one of the first ones here in Copenhagen. The ESOT 2019 Congress here in Copenhagen is full of innovative formats. And right now I am in Hall A2, where in the back of the hall you will find the Elevator Pitch Theater. Throughout the course of the Congress, in several sessions, there will be 15 different abstracts presented, and the presenters will get the chance to pitch one slide for 1 minute. After that minute, the judge decides if the presenter is allowed for another 5 minutes of presentation with another 4 additional slides. So if you ever find yourself in this format, you better prepare really well what you have to say. What was it like to present your abstract in this format?
It was absolutely challenging because, well, you have very short time, 1 minute, and you have to convince your chairman in this short period of time for something that needs long time to explain. So very challenging.
And if people in the future are watching this who might consider doing the elevator pitch, do you have a tip for them?
Yes, I would say just don't mention the result, and just say what you would like to show, and don't mention the conclusion, don't mention the result.
So if you are interested to get a quick overview over a lot of different papers presented here at the Congress, make sure you join in on one of the elevator pitch sessions. Yes, hello and welcome back here live from Copenhagen in our little hallway studio, where we're about ready to get started with the first big session of today. It's called State of the Art Session number 1. And the topic is the microbiome in transplantation. Is it a friend or a foe? And this session will be chaired by Manna Clatworthy from the UK, and she'll be taking us along 4 different stories about what the microbiome can mean in transplantation. What does it do to immunity and immunology? What does it mean for rejection? And what does it mean for transplant tolerance? A very interesting session, and I can imagine you are curious to follow that along. Well, I have good news for you. We will be live for 24 hours during the Congress, and you can follow all these sessions in the main room. And if you're interested in sessions going on in the second big room, They are recorded and live broadcasted as well during the evening and during the night. In the night for our audiences in the United States, in the morning for our audiences in Asia. So if you haven't done so, now is the moment to hop over to the website esottransplantlive.org. I assume you're already a member of ESOT's educational platform. If not, you'll be signing up in just a quick minute, and you have access to to this enormous library of content. You'll be live with us in Copenhagen, and you can actually follow some very discrete courses and obtain your CME credits. By the way, you can also claim your CME credits for participating in the Copenhagen Congress virtually as well. Just stay tuned, and by Wednesday there will be a short survey. If you fill that out and you're able to answer all the questions correctly, you will actually get some points for participating in this as well. If you're not yet on ESOT Transplant Live, but just following this on Facebook or YouTube, maybe discovering it later, make sure you come back, because this afternoon I'll be talking to Menna Clatworthy, the chair of the next session, and hear from her what her latest insights are. Around the clock of 10:30 Copenhagen time, we'll share a coffee with you. It's coffee break here for the delegates in Copenhagen. We'll be back here live, and we go for another bike ride. And I'll be biking with Lucas Sargentini, ESOT's new CEO. We're going to figure out who he is, how he got in his position, and what his vision is to drive this international society of transplantation professionals even further in the future. My second guest in that live coffee break here on YouTube and Facebook will be Diethard Banlieu, and he has a very special story. He, about 11 years ago, he launched the Transplant2 community, and he went together with 3 colleagues on a bike ride here to Copenhagen. They're from Leuven in Belgium, and for the last week they drove on their bikes. Hey, how suitable, Copenhagen, city of bikes. They drove on their bikes to Copenhagen. So we'll be having a bike ride with him where he will share his story and also his initiative to involve patients and to inspire patients to take care of their health through the Transplant2 community. By then, we enter a very special moment in the ESOT 2019 Congress. It will be around the clock of 11, where we go live into the main plenary hall and follow the recognition of the Leonardo da Vinci Award, which is a new award in the ESOT community, and it highlights the very best and very most innovative research that's being done. And the way that has come about is that some of the most high-valued abstracts have been entered into a pool where all the editors of the main leading transplantation journals have been reviewing that. They have been a jury. And each editor, there will be 5 editors in total, will pitch on stage their best abstract. They'll introduce the abstract and why they think it's so innovative. Then we'll hear a short presentation by the author of the abstract, and to learn what the work they've done and why that is so innovative. And then in the final part of that session, the audience will actually get to vote or gets a say in who wins the Leonardo da Vinci Award. And besides the enormous lifetime honor and bragging rights that award brings, there's also a significantly prize money involved. So I invite you to come and see what the latest and the greatest in transplantation is. Starts 11:10, and it will be live broadcasted on ESOT Transplant Live. So make sure you tune in on that. Then during the lunch break, we'll do a rerun of the plenary session number 1. In case you've missed that, we recorded the session yesterday, the opening, amongst others, with Eske Willeslev. And this was all about what we can learn from genetics, both from the history of genetics, but also about the future of genetics, the CRISPR technology on how we can do some gene editing, and what that could mean for the field of transplantation. So that will be here during lunch on Transplant Live. And then at the time when it gets to 2 o'clock, we'll have our second plenary session. That's all about the single-cell omics, oftewel, meaning generating an atlas to shared transplantation. We've heard all about personalized medicine, and we'll see how we can use single-cell technologies to generate better outcomes in transplantation. We have 4 different speakers. This session, again, will be hosted by Menna Clatworthy, who you're going to see in the state-of-the-art session very soon as well. And we'll explore all the different dynamics around single-cell technologies and how you can use them as a transplant professional. Well, it's a full and lengthy day, and I'm going to take you all the way through the program, what we're going to do. We'll have a short tea break right after that. Well, we'll be talking live to Menna, coming out of those sessions. And then for the second part of the afternoon, we have 2 more sessions live in stock for you. The first one is the Inspire and Drive session number 2, where we challenge the concept of evidence-based practice. Because the title is Evidence-Based Practice, is it killing the art of medicine? And we'll be looking at how, of course, we need to be evidence-based. Of course, we need to found the things we do and our methods and processes in a significant body of scientific proof. But hey, we are also on the forefront of innovation. So sometimes you need to do stuff that's never been done before. But how are you going to validate whether that is enough or not? So that is the key topic of Inspire and Drive session number 2, starting here at 4 o'clock. And all of this will be broadcasted live on ESOT Transplant Live. So if you haven't done so, we're going to switch off the Facebook live stream right now. We're going to switch off the YouTube live stream right now. We're going to invite you to join us on ESOT Transplant Live and go straight into the session, State of the Art number 1. Sorry.
Okay.